Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Tom Slivick, News in Depth, and I'm with Neil Peacock. Well, Neil, we were leaving people, and we were talking about, the meeting that you're going to have on Thursday, November 29th, in Jackson Civic Center, to discuss the circulation improvement program and the traffic impact fee update.
Yes.
And will this be the first one? So is this kind of a general meeting?
Yeah, good question. We already gave a public workshop in front of the Planning Commission, the City Planning Commission, about a month ago. At that meeting, we talked about all of the land use and traffic demand forecasts and got their initial input on some concept improvements in terms of general strategies. And at the second public workshop here, we're going to be getting more detailed input on individual proposed improvements.
Okay, and this is going to be held, held by your people and Caltrans, or who will be there taking you?
This is actually more working with the City of Jackson, quite frankly.
Right,
we as the regional transportation agency is helping the City of Jackson bring their vision for the city to fruition from a traffic perspective.
I'm a little curious. Do you have like models like on computers where you plug the stuff in and you show the roads that people could see that? Is that too futuristic?
Yeah, no. The future is here, honestly. Okay. A really good example is intersection operations, for example. One of the things that you'll see if you're interested in coming to our workshop on Thursday the 29th is the difference between a roundabout and an intersection. They both operate differently, and there's pros and cons to both. And intersection might be appropriate here, and a roundabout might be appropriate there, but these simulation tools is what you're referring to, give you the ability to see in a real-world streetscape view how traffic would operate under future conditions if it was a roundabout or a signal. And that's really, really important, particularly in that whole roundabout versus signal discussion. So you get people a really real-world view of how it would operate.
Okay, I want to go again. Like you gave an example, say Wicklow Way. If we want to have Wicklow Way go on through and then meet, I believe it was Stony
Creek down to Sutter Street, the Sutter Street Extension Project.
So it'd be like that's something that you already have plans.
Right.
For
yeah.
People sound like they do want it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, is this where people would also come and say, we don't want that?
If that's what they feel. Honestly, my job is to collect the input, reflect the input that we've given in refinements to the program before it reaches the City Council. Again, when we go to the City Council, we want to be able to say, hey, we've reached out to all these interest groups, we've heard from the community at these public workshops, and City Council, here's the recommendation for your consideration based on the input that we've received and the technical analysis that we've undertaken.
Okay. Well, here's a question I'll have to ask you. Now, when I go to some of these different meetings, and not here for Jackson, I haven't been there, but like in Pine Grove, quite often it seems like you go back and you almost have to start back at square one and start talking about things. We're not at a square one now, right?
No, definitely not.
Where would you put it on then?
Well, honestly, I'd like to think we're halfway home, quite frankly.
Okay.
Again, a big part of it is identifying what your challenges are and proposing ways to meet those challenges.
Okay, I think we better move into challenges. Most challenges are green energy challenges, things. In other words, like how much money do you have to pay for this? Where are you going to get the money? And is things like this feasible? And then you have to prioritize.
Well, and that's a good example of sometimes how you have to back up. I wouldn't say go to square one, but back up a little bit. It might be easy to say we would like landscape separated sidewalk and these big art exhibits as a part of our roadways, but again, at the end of the day, we have to figure out how to afford all of this, and we might have to ratchet back our list of wants and settle on what we really need and can afford. And that's that balancing act of having something that's compatible to the community, that meets our traffic demands, and that we can afford. And the how are we going to afford it part is really pretty important. So we have all these financial projections and funding opportunities, and at the end of the day, a portion of this cost needs to be transferred onto future development here in the City of Jackson. As these improvements are intended to support future development needs to pay its fair share. And that's a tricky game to work out in terms of what the fee amounts are that are not a detractor to development for the city. And at the same time can pay for these improvements that we need.
That's where a lot of those concepts of well, here we go, fair share or something like that.
Right.
Now, this is also correct me if I'm wrong, but this is for the city of Jackson. So this is coming out of whose pocket?
Well, it's a mixed bag, honestly.
Okay.
We're expecting the state to pay for some.
Okay.
We have federal grant opportunities that we can go after for certain types of improvements. Developers will build certain improvements themselves,
Right.
and everybody needs to pitch in and pay for the rest. And that's basically, if you look at a big pie chart, there's these chunks of the pie. And the part that we're going to be working on most intimately is the traffic impact fee. Basically, this is a fee that all building permits need to pay into the future. If you build your retail or your commercial or your single family or what have you, you pay a portion of the cost that goes into the kitty. And then the city of Jackson accrues enough money over time to build a given improvement. So,
do we have an idea of what might be one of the first projects?
well, I'm going to have to say that it's probably going to be Sutter Street Extension, because that project is already in the works. A lot of this stuff takes a long time to happen, and Sutter Street Extension is currently in a design and right-of-way and environmental clearance, and it's a little bit further down the road than some of these other improvements. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean that we won't have an opportunity to go after some kind of a federal safety grant for the Argonaut Lane intersection, for example. And this is, as staff, we have to strike while the iron's hot and pounce on opportunities when we see them come about. And so it's always a little hard to gauge what's going to happen when.
Also, it seems to me like when you do go after grants, and since it is timely a lot of times to jump on them, you need the public behind what it is that you want to do.
That's exactly right. Before we propose any project for construction, we need to have a program of projects that has community support. All right, and that's what this workshop coming up on the Thursday, the 29th, is all about. You're going to see at the Civic Center a whole room full of design exhibits that's going to show you what these improvements would look like. And we really need community input because, again, before we present something to the City Council for its adoption, we want to be able to say that we've heard from the community and we have support for this concept and that concept.
Okay, it would seem to me if I went to that meeting, I would probably see city planners down there and county officials and everyone that's interested.
Yes, certainly we're
Right.
working very closely with city staff, city manager
Is this
Mike Daly. And
Like this is a rollout of your models in a way. Is
That's
this?
right. That's right. Basically, again, you'll have a summary of all the analysis to date based on city general plan and regional development, and then exhibits. These are big designed exhibits, room-sized boards, full of the entire room will be full of these kind of exhibits, so you can see what these concepts would look like if we built them. How might they affect your property? How might they affect your neighbor's property? How might they be able to serve our future transportation needs?
Okay, and in here it seems like when they do have that, then people are either new to the community or old to the community. Like would say, well, if we put this in and we connect this to that, maybe we'll have more development.
That's
we don't
right.
know if we'd like that.
That's exactly right. I'll give you just briefly two examples
Good.
where we're going to show the community a couple different options. The segment of South Broadway between Clinton Road and 49, we're not really sure we need community input. So one of the things we'll be showing at this workshop on the 29th are 3 different alternatives. Okay, we could do it like this and we could do it like that. Public, what do you think? Give us your input. Right now, we could go any one of 3 different ways. By the time it reaches the City Council, we need to have a preferred alternative. The same thing with the Oro de Amador Parkway, or Park Drive, we're calling it, is a concept to provide a connection from New York Ranch Road to North Main. And we've heard from the St. Salva Serbian Church and ACRA and the Oro de Amador Working Group and city staff, and we're showing 2 different options. It could go over here or it could go over there. And we really need community input on terms of which is preferred. They both have pros and cons. At the end of the day, we need to be able to recommend one to the City Council.
Okay, I'm going to bring something up. At one time, there was thoughts of putting a bypass through Jackson. Is that included in this at all, or has that been?
No, the outcome of that planning process is circa 2006, 2008, somewhere in there. Basically, the community of Jackson couldn't reach a consensus on a bypass, a north bypass or a south bypass, and the direction that we got from the community at that time was look at more local circulation, more local roadways to help diffuse traffic, and that's a lesson that we took and incorporated with this plan, and some of these roadways like the Wicklow Way Extension and the Oro de Amador Park Drive or the South Broadway are examples of that enhancing local connection and local transportation options.
Therefore, it's probably more important to get a lot of locals out because this is inside of the neighborhoods, and we're not looking at a peripheral main thing going on.
That's right. You know, and a big part of our challenge these days is if you don't build new bypasses, if you don't widen your existing highways, what local roadways are you going to build to help diffuse that traffic? And on the other hand, are we all clear on the expectation that the level of service, is what we call it, on our principal arterials is going to get worse? And that's just a part of the trade-off. Again, if you don't build new highways, if you don't widen your highways, they're going to have to carry more traffic. And again, that's a part of the trade-off that when we decide not to build these new facilities that we have to accept at the end of the day. It may be 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. But anyway, that is an eventual outcome.
Okay. And also, it would be a good place for citizens, people who live here, to go down and get actual data rather than just anecdotal from themselves or from their neighbors, or different places to get actual.
That's exactly right. You'll be able to talk with us, our design and traffic engineers, personally. You'll be able to see huge exhibits, take packets of information home, and tell us directly what you think about the city of Jackson's future transportation. Okay,
we just have a few minutes left, so why don't you tell? There is to me, it seems like a new feeling that the planners do want local input. So why don't you tell people if that's true or not, and invite them down one more time.
To tell it to you frankly, Tom, I bend over backward getting local input. I'm at all kinds of media events like this, meeting with stakeholders one-on-one. I've got our public service announcements all over there. But there's only so much I can do. I need the public to turn out. At the end of the day, I can tell the city council I did everything I possibly could, but I need you there.
Okay, we've got to go. So they need you there. And Neil,
thank you for having me.
Once again, that's a public workshop. It's being held on November 29th here in Jackson.
You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.